Hello everybody, welcome to another Adventures with Paul. Today Kath and I are riding around the island of St. Simons, a very cool old school beach town. No high rises, no huge resorts, just a really cool place to explore. Well, I think we may have just gone through the busiest section of St. Simons Island. It's like the main road comes right into this large roundabout, and you have to navigate that in a vehicle or even on a bike. The first section of the trail heading out from kind of the northern tip of the airport, which is a busy section of the island, heads north towards the less, even the roosters agree, that the busy section of the island kind of heads into more remote as you go further north. You can see that the bike trail parallels the road here, Frederica Road, and on a Friday morning it's got some traffic, but it's nice that they have separated infrastructure. I'd say this is probably like the second busiest intersection in St. Simons, where four roads converge. Goes over to Sea Island, goes north into more residential areas, and south to get off the island. Okay, we are off of Frederica Road. It might be noisy in the morning, but it's the only direct route through the center of the island. Here we are, Christchurch. This has got to be one of the most scenic churches ever in the history of churches. The size is just small, it's welcoming, and it's just gorgeous among all these oaks. Adjacent to Christchurch is the Fort Frederica National Monument. This is a national park, and it's the old site of Fort Frederica. And there's a large area to walk through, archaeological ruins, and looks like we may have a field trip going on here. Fort Frederica was a British military encampment that grew in the mid 18th century to about 1,500 residents. Fort Frederica was the northernmost part on our island tour. Now we head back down Frederica Road. There's a lot of Fredericas on St. Simons. The next section of this bike tour is a choose your own adventure. It's about a 2/10 of a mile, quarter-mile walk to see the Marshes, but if you've got clipless pedals and you're walking in look cleats or something like that, you may want to avoid it. I'm riding flats today. I've kind of switched over to flats on my touring bike, so for me, I just hop right off the bike and I'm able to go. But through the magic of this video, you'll be able to see what it looks like on the trail. You can see that a large part of St. Simons Island is made up of these marshes, and they just can't build there, so they build out by the water where the land is, or they build inland where they've actually got some solid ground to put a house onto. I don't know, there's something about St. Simons Island which is just unique. You got these marshes that you can walk through. You got these boardwalks that take you to these places. You can see a lot more of the actual natural environment than just being in a place with advertising and water parks and amusements and arcade machines. I mean, this is natural. This is really nice, and it's so laid back here. So our route today takes us off of the bike path that goes along the main north-south corridor of Frederica Road. We are now going into the residential area of St. Simons. And if you're thinking, hey Paul, this is beautiful, I'd love to have a house here. Well, the time to buy was about 5 years ago. Real estate prices have gone, like everywhere else in the country, just completely insane. This is the site of what is called the Bloody Marsh. because supposedly the marsh ran red with blood during the incursion that happened in here in the mid-18th century. Remember, we had, before the United States became a country, there were two countries vying for control. Well, actually three, but I'm not going to get into the French. There were the British along the eastern seaboard and the Spanish that were coming up through Florida. Well, the Spanish were trying to come up here to take over Fort Frederica, which we saw earlier in our bike tour, and they were ambushed by the British here, who defeated them in the Bloody Marsh. We've just come off of a stretch of land, and we're going on a causeway between two marshes, which gets us over towards the beach side of the island. This is another choose your own adventure if you're wearing flats. I mean, you could probably take your cycling shoes off with cleats and walk down here barefoot, but the beach is nice. It's a nice, the day's fairly cool. On the way out of the Coast Guard Beach Park, you pass the World War II Homefront Museum. They've got a whole bunch of collections and exhibits about what it was like on the home front. Alright, we are now here at my wife's favorite store on the island, Ocean Motion. She's currently inside trying on a t-shirt, so we'll see if she likes it. I mean, how laid back is this? Just off the main road, and you're in the village, and you got some dirt roads to contend with. This is more like Bermuda stuff, or Bahamas. It's very cool. This is the beach village on St. Simon's. Again, really old school. Kind of reminds me of Lake Placid, New York, where they haven't touched the historic district, and it's not full of high-rises and tons of condos and tons of commercialism. It's really just old school, which is really fun. See here is Avenue of the Oaks. This used to be the main drive for a plantation years ago. Now it goes into a golf course. Golf resort's very pretty. Just the main drive doesn't go down the middle of the oaks any longer, but you can still see them and they're still beautiful. We're now rolling through Gascoigne Bluff Park. This was the former location of the Hamilton Plantation. Interesting tidbit, the wood from the USS Constitution, nicknamed Old Ironsides, came from this exact location when they were building that ship for the US Navy. And currently the Constitution is the oldest commissioned US warship. So the Hamilton Plantation was here from 1830 to 1865. These were where they housed their workers, which at that point were slaves. The construction is made from tabby with some plaster over it, and as you remember, tabby is that construction mixed with limestone, seashells, and sand, and it becomes a slurry, and it's as hard as concrete. In fact, it's so hard that the Spanish in St. Augustine used tabby to create a fort, and the fort was never taken, so it's a strong material.